Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm your host, Duke Oishi.
And I'm your co-host, Maria Kashem.
In our show this time, we'll cover the Kaka'ako Town Hall Meeting that took place at the state capitol on the evening of July 30th.
The Town Hall Meeting was an opportunity for HCDA, the state agency that oversees development in Kaka'ako, to present and explain what is happening there to concerned state legislators, city council members, and members of the public. As you might expect, it was very well attended, revealing the level of public interest in the development of the neighborhood.
First, HCDA reported on the Kaka'ako MAUKA Area Master Plan of 2011, the pending project applications, the requests for variances and modifications, and the applicability of the rules to each of the projects contemplated.
On November 11th, 2011, and so again, mixed use, active streets. Our design principles are green streets, strengthened MAUKA linkage, still support for the small lot, mixed use industrial pattern in central Kaka'ako, support for transit-oriented development, and again, pedestrian paths, and you'll see that as a theme.
Then the HCDA talked about reserved housing, including distinctions between affordable and workforce housing, and the need to maintain long-term affordability of that housing.
And they calculate for 2012 that the median income, and this would be for a family of four, is $82,700. So in this particular table, you can see that if you had a three-person household or a two-person household at 100% of area median income, the two-person household would be $66,160. And I realize the print is small, but that's how it comes, and hopefully you can make out those numbers. So you can easily see how HUD would say is the median family income, which is at 100%. Very low income is 50 and 60% income limits, and anything below like 30% would be considered public housing, perhaps qualified. But there's a detailed explanation. So in terms of the housing ladder, just so that you understand a glossary of terms, again, market housing, you have a willing buyer and a willing seller. So they're gonna do whatever they need to do to get a deal.
The HCDA then spoke about the 2005 rules, the 2011 rules, and the proposed transit-oriented development overlay rules, including the 650 and 700-foot residential towers that are planned, and the differences and interplay between all these rules.
The next question is the basis for our plan and rules. And again, here the stack of books is meant to see that, you can see that our statutory mandate is 206E. We've had a number of plan and rules over time. Our last plan and rule established in 2011 seeks to again create a compact, walkable community. The TOD overlay that we've been presenting is in a draft form, and it seeks to again build on the same principles, identical as the 2011 rules, but we seek to again maximize pedestrian-oriented development in the district. So here's a summary of our administrative rules. I think what I've done is compress several chapters and many pages into one slide. And so the base is, again, 3 columns, the 1982 plan and 2005 rule, the 2011 plan and rule, and our proposed TOD plan and rules. You can see the differences. In short, I'm gonna say that you can see that we're certainly moving towards that objective of a compact, walkable community with active streets. We look to line parking podiums instead of letting them come to the parcel line, because we feel that commercial activities at the street level in place of looking at a parking garage is better. We have stringent and somewhat unique rules with respect to view quarters, tower spacing, alignment, the length of towers, and orientation of towers that we did not have before. With respect to the density in the middle under 2011 plan and rules, I'll note that the exceptions are we do not give 3.5 density to the Sheridan track area because it's an existing built-out area, and that Central Kaka'ako can only have the 3.5 density if certain improvements are made. Again, with respect to heights, you can see that we start at 400 foot on a minimum 80,000 square foot lot. And then again in our 2011 plan and rules, it's based on which neighborhood you're in, and you can get to 400. With respect to our proposed TOD plan, we have for 700 feet, which is the maximum, would be only for 3 specific buildings, no more. With respect to 400 to 550 feet, it would be on a parcel specific basis in in certain circumstances with specifications, or which meet specifications.
Then HCDA told everyone about the variances and modifications being sought, the factors HCDA would consider in approving or denying these variances, and the rules relating to density, setback, and height limitations.
So information about our variance program. Again, I've organized it into 2 columns. Our 1982 plan and 05 rules is the middle column, and the right column is our latest set, which is going to be consistently maintained through our TOD plan. Again, you can see the provisions, and I'll summarize. Our 2005 rules allowed for variance to be requested based on only unnecessary hardship. So what we've done in the 2011 rules is we've increased or made that standard much tougher. They have to meet 5 criteria, and that is the variance must be unique, not self-created. It has to be a minimal deviation. It should not affect the character of the neighborhood and otherwise have no adverse impact. I note at the bottom that certain things cannot be asked for in terms of the variance process, and that is change of zone, deletion of a roadway, your park or open space plan, view corridors, land use classification, building type and frontage, and any maximum floor area ratio standard. So I hope you can see here that our variance program allows for some flexibility, but we've toughened it up a bit. With respect to modifications, and again, under our 2011 plan, no modifications are allowed for the MAUKA area rules, with the one exception that for workforce housing, the authority may consider any modification to its reserve housing rules. So all things aside, just to how you administer a reserve housing program. On the left-hand side, in terms of modifications, again, you can see that there are opportunities to ask for modifications in particular areas, and you can again see the 2 classifications. So if you do not choose to build beyond a 1.5 FAR or density level on a lot which is greater or than 20,000 square feet, then you're doing all right, and you don't have to ask for anything except meet the rules. But if you do meet that requirement, you want to build more than 1.5 FAR, then you have this opportunity to ask for questions. In case you didn't know, FAR stands for floor area ratio, and it's a measure of density. If you have a 10,000 square foot lot and you have a density multiplier of 3.5, then that means you're allowed to build 3.5 times 10,000, which is 35,000 square feet. So that's, you have the basics for development there.
Finally, there is a discussion of the current infrastructure, including traffic, water, sewage, schools, healthcare facilities, and other projected infrastructure requirements and impact fees for Kaka'ako.
And they calculate for 2012 that the median income, and this would be for a family of 4, is $82,700. So in this particular table, you can see that if you had a 3-person household or a 2-person household at 100% of area median income, the 2-person household would be $66,160. And I realize the print is small, but that's how it comes, and hopefully you can make out those numbers. So you can easily see how HUD would say is the median family income, which is at 100%. Very low income is 50 and 60% income limits, and anything below like 30% would be considered public housing, perhaps qualified. But there's a detailed explanation. So in terms of the housing ladder, just so that you understand a glossary of terms, again, market housing, you have a willing buyer and a willing seller. So they're gonna do whatever they need to do to get a deal.
The HCDA agenda also allowed for Q&A, and as we might have anticipated, the people who were there had many questions and comments, both pro and con, coming from all sides of the room.
First question would be regarding notification to existing residents, in the immediate vicinity of particular projects, as well as the HCDA's process. I know that some of the area legislators had asked very early on, about the process that the agency would use in notifying people. Currently, a number of residents have complained about the lack of registered mail or other kinds of notifications to residents who live in the vicinity, and that's something that has been pretty standard with many of the city zoning requirements. Can you respond to that?
So HCDA maintains a list of about, for anybody who signs up and gives us contact information, there's currently about 267 people on that list. And we have a certified mail list that we adhere to. But taking the suggestions of area legislators such as yourself, we have been conducting for some time on the 3rd Tuesday of every month at 5:30 to 7:30. We do community briefings where people have an opportunity to hear about what's up on our next agenda and for me to answer any questions that they might have. We've accelerated that, and we've held twice monthly where we talk about the current projects that are happening. So besides the published notification, besides maintaining at your request, Council Member, a listing of AOs in the area to ensure that they get a mailed notice, we have instituted that and compared our list with yours. In addition, we would expect in the future to formalize any plan revisions or major project summaries so that there is a process before people or to inform people as to what might be happening. However, I must be honest and say that we do not control when people ask for development permits.
This meeting was sponsored by State Senators Suzanne Chun Oakland and Brickwood Galateria, State Representatives Tom Brower, Della Al-Biladi, and Scott Saiki, and City Council members Ann Kobayashi and Carol Fukunaga. They want to be sure the public has the opportunity to comment on what's going on.
It was an important meeting, but it's not clear where this takes us on the road to development of Kaka'ako. Surely there will be more meetings, comments, and questions, and it seems likely that both the legislature and city council will take up at least some of the issues discussed.
This is democracy as we have come to know it in Hawaii, where the community can speak on any pending project. That's a good thing. But at this point, it's not clear how these discussions will affect the timeline or implementation of the plan.
Action should be taken promptly by all agencies and legislative bodies involved to identify the concerns and address them so as to move on with a plan.
One of the recurrent themes in the discussions is the role of HCDA and its planning relationship with the City Department of Planning and Permitting. Indeed, some people want to put Kaka'ako back under the jurisdiction of the city and DPP.
It's incumbent on all of us to follow the story in Kaka'ako and keep tabs on what's happening. Remember, this is the heart of our city, and whatever happens will affect all of us on Oahu. The public needs to be part of the process.
Well, I think it was a good opportunity to ask a lot of hard questions. I think that there are a lot of unanswered questions that need to be addressed in the future, so we'll hold more meetings.
The community dialogue that we're having is important. I think we all want to see Kaka'ako developed properly in the right way, but there obviously is a lot of questions that are unanswered, and planning that we still need to do. Lots of concerns about infrastructure, whether it's public schools, the sewer system, the water lines, traffic. There's lots of concerns, and I think that this is a kind of the opening of the conversation. I think we have to keep having the conversation, and we have to hold both the agency representatives and legislators down the road accountable for the decisions that we're making or not making in Kaka'ako.
I thought that they should address the density because it's going from a 3 density to a 12 all the way at the other end. So they're building another city in the middle of the city, and that's the whole problem. We can't even drive by the highway, the ocean anymore. So we're all getting ripped off on that one.
Good that it happened, and I hope there are many more along these lines. I am glad the questions were asked. Andrew Ching thinks that people can be sufficiently encouraged. Tony Ching. To be walking and taking buses and Hart and so on, and not use their cars. I think he's dreaming. It's not realistic. There'll be too much traffic. He's not talking about improving the roadways, and if they can't, they're going to have so much traffic. Car exhaust and so on. They shouldn't be building this densely. It's probably the most dense of any place in Hawaii if it goes through the way it's planned.
Well, I think it was a very orderly discussion, and that was good. But I think there were a lot of people who had questions about their individual circumstances in and around their buildings that may not have had a chance to get their questions answered. So we're going to make sure that those questions are answered, and we will send the responses back out to people.
I think they completely ignored some of the key issues. They carefully slide over the fact that almost all of the housing is for people above the median income. Most important is the misunderstanding of workforce housing. Workforce housing is for essential workers. Essential workers in Hawaii, we have the salaries, they're available online, don't make anywhere near $78,000 to $83,000. They don't make the median income. You notice how quickly he talked about 2 incomes? Because that's the only way you can handle it. If you're a workforce housing person, you got to have a spouse who's got a job similar to yours. Then you can get one of these workforce housing units. But on your own single salary, you can't come anywhere near affording Marshall Hong's project, where units for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath on the 2nd floor start at $402,000, and they will be flipped because there's no restriction on flipping. They will be flipped right away and shoot up to the market. That's it. So they keep telling people out there, you're going to have some housing for you, but it's not true.
The biggest issue in Kaka'ako is variances. That they have some good rules that were developed in the last few years, and they have a good set of rules now. But they go in too many instances, they let the developers do something against the rules by giving them a variance. The very first building out of the gate, after those rules were adopted, was Symphony. And Symphony, they let them turn a building for 90 degrees for no reason on the site. None of their principles, the 5 principles he just put up there, but just because what the developer wanted to develop. So it was because of developer instigated limitations, and that was wrong. And 404 Ward that was just approved. It's an L-shaped building. And so if you're trying to turn the building as a slab in the MAUKA direction, and you're trying to preserve that view corridor up Ward Avenue, having that wing stick out towards Ward Avenue is the wrong thing to do. And so I think the biggest problem that they have is variances and not sticking to their rules.
And now let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
Check out ThinkTech's 4 to 5 p.m. drive time radio series on KGU 760 AM for Energy on Wednesday, Asia on Thursday, and Tech on Friday. We also stream video and audio for all our shows live on the internet at 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. every weekday. And we replay them all night long on Ustream.tv. Visit ThinkTechHawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links. Raise your awareness on ThinkTech.
On Thursday, August 22nd, the Hawaii Venture Capital Association and ThinkTech will present a luncheon panel program at the Plaza Club entitled, "Don't Be Afraid to Send Your Kid or CEO to China. Stories of Daring Do and Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Happiness in the People's Republic." You can sign up for these programs on hvca.org.
And now here's Bill Spencer, President of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, with this week's Spensation.
Okay, Bill, there was a meeting in June at the HCDA office there on Cook Street, and the public came. Then there was a meeting on July 30, and the public came to the state capitol. There's a lot of interest, a lot of activity, and now, most recently, Kamehameha Schools has announced that it's going to build a very big project, a site of CompUSA. So you're in the neighborhood. How do you see all this?
Well, I've lived there more than 23 years. I've been on the Kaka'ako Ala Moana Advisory Neighborhood Board. And I really like what's going on, to be honest with you, Jay. I think that the gap between downtown and Waikiki, with the exception of the development right around Ala Moana, really puts a bad face on Honolulu. And it's time that we got rid of the Quonset huts and put in some housing for our workforce, our tech sector. You know, we're recruiting top-notch scientists to work at the medical school and the cancer center, and one of their first questions is going to be, where am I going to live? Where am I going to have my business? You know, so I think the visions that have been put forth by both Victoria Ward and KS are really stellar. You know, yeah, there's going to be some construction and traffic and noise for a little while, but we'll get over it. You know, we shouldn't think short term. We shouldn't be so self-serving that, you know, all we worry about is a little disruption, because in the long term, as you've said many times, this is the heart of Honolulu, and it's time that we modernized it. You know, Victoria Ward has some fabulous visions for water features and walking areas and greenery and tree-lined streets that fit very nicely with their shops and their restaurants and their larger luxury projects. They're doing a lot to really redevelop the neighborhood, and so is KS. And I think they're listening to us too. You know, they do listen. They reach out to us. And the thing that people don't talk about at these meetings very much is, you know, when you redevelop and you put in great properties like the ones they have planned, those properties are going to be paying a tremendous amount of property taxes, money that's going to go into the city coffers that can help with a lot of things. So I think overall, so long as we, you know, can nurture the tech sector, the entrepreneurial ecosystem, create great living spaces for entrepreneurs so they'll want to come to Startup Paradise and start their businesses, I think we've got something good going on.
I hope that's in the cards, Bill. I think you know, there's a risk that some of these young entrepreneurs won't have a home anymore when everything's built, and the tech industry would like to be there and has wanted to be there for at least a decade, maybe more, and there won't be any room left, either in space or in, you know, the quality of the amount of the rents that are charged. So this has to be built into the system somehow. I know we agree on this, and that would be what I would be watching for.
Well, keep in mind, you know, that a lot of tech happens in a virtual world. You don't really need to spend a lot of money on office space to be a productive tech entrepreneur. So the co-working spaces that we hope will exist, the pop-up hubs, which are being planned, that allow for people to have a workspace and a way to work together, but don't have the huge rent associated with a long-term commercial lease. I think all those things are going to contribute to that ecosystem, and we're going to find that this is going to be a wonderful neighborhood and that the live, work, and play vision may actually come true.
Now that will be something, won't it?
It'll be great.
I hope so.
Me too.
Thank you, Bill.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric and Hawaii Electric Light are deeply committed to the communities they serve.
Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company.
The High Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism.
Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state.
Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future.
Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions.
Okay, Maria, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough of it, just like JFI Dell does. For additional times, check out OC16.tv.
Totally, Duke. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a sponsor or a volunteer and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Duke Oishi. Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. Aloha, everyone.
I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time. Okay, let's try that again.